The WWF, what the world is watching. Turn it on and rip the knob off.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Wrestling Memory Grenade. Now at episode 204, I'm Ray Russell, and this week we jump into yet another month in the 1989 WWF project, talking about July of 1989 in the World Wrestling Federation. We have crossed the halfway point of the year, and boy, has it been a voyage, a journey so far. The Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam now on the horizon. Feel the heat. And, of course, later here in the month of July, it's going to be Saturday night's main event as well. We've got a lot of stories and news to get into this week. We're actually going to change up the format as well this week, and we got a special guest to join us. All sorts of good stuff going on right now at the Grenade Show. I want to thank everybody who has recently been part of the Grenade. A lot of special guests that have stopped through here over the last several months of the storytelling we're doing here in 1989. We've got some of those guests scheduled to come back here very shortly as well. But for this week, as we jump into July news, like I mentioned, a different format as we're going to move away from reading off the house show results because, well, there's a lot less house shows to watch. Back in the day, we could watch Boston and Philly, a lot of Toronto events, and now not so much. And even MSG taking a little time off for renovation, but we do have shows from Nassau, the Meadowlands, etc. once a month. And because of that, we're going to change up the format and talk more about the ongoing storylines, the ongoing feuds that are taking place at the house shows, the A, B, and C shows, the headliners, the mid-card, the underneath, a little bit of everything here, guys. And in order to do that, we're going to bring back on the original co-host of the Wrestling Memory Grenade. He's back again, recently helped me cover a special on episode 202, did a little watch-along for a week of June TV, and now we're back to talk a little July news and, well, I guess you could say results in some way, shape, or form, but certainly going to break things down here. What's going on in the summer of 89. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back the one and only Mr. Steve Ekstad. Welcome back to the program, man.
Thanks for having me, man. How's it going?
It's a going, sir. It's a nice Monday morning. Going to get this recording out of the way and looking forward to the week ahead. Probably another 8 or 9 shows to record this week, but that's how we do it here in the WrestleCopia world and the Patreon world specifically. I want to appreciate everybody that's joined the Patreon. If you haven't already, give it a try, man. We've been hammering out 8 or 9 video series right now going on with the Grenade, or, these specials that we put out here with the Grenade, the video. We haven't really done a whole lot of that, never really until recently, but it's been a fun time going. And this time I explained here at the top of the program for those listening on the podcast side that we've got a new format here for the news and results, which is the first real change in the format in quite a long time here on the Grenade Show, because we've lost the Boston Garden feed. We've lost the Spectrum feed. We've lost, Toronto's still around, but it's not as often. MSG is away right now on the renovations project. So they're still airing some shows from the Meadowlands or Nassau, places like that. But with SummerSlam coming up in August, I don't think we even get another house show at all in August, if I remember correctly, as far as television.
Oh, wow.
So not a whole lot to discuss here anymore in the way of watching any of the footage. So instead, we're going to pivot and talk a little bit more about the matches and, the marriages, as they call it there on the loop here in the summer of 1990. And we'll talk about that. But, of course, before we do any of that, guys, we're going to jump into July news here for 1989, Steve.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I skimmed through your notes to prepare, and not a whole lot, but some interesting things for sure to discuss.
Yeah, it's a little slow going here. I try to make as many notes as I possibly can to educate and hopefully inform, but also entertain if possible. And there's always something entertaining going on in the world of pro wrestling. So I think we've got that going for a couple of pages of news, and then we get into some of the other fun stuff, the change up. And for anybody interested, you guys can join the All Access tier, and you'll have access to the research notes to go back and kind of see how Ray Russell breaks it down, how I do it here on the show. But also, hey, it's a quick, easy access in case you guys ever want to entertain yourself with what was happening here in the World Wrestling Federation during the late 1980s. And as I said, we're going to jump right into it right now, guys. Talking about July 1989 WWF News. And get ready, Steve, to feel the heat for
yes,
SummerSlam. Coming August 28th from the Meadowlands, a.k.a. Brendan Byrne Arena, East Rutherford, New Jersey. We would have seen a repeat of Madison Square Garden, it feels like. Last year, they kick it off in the Garden, 1988. But the Garden, as I said, under renovation through September 15th. And I believe the WWF will return almost immediately after, late in September. But for right now, the Meadowlands it is, and the headline match being promoted locally and soon nationally as Hulk Hogan teaming with Brother Brute-Eyed Dude, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and Hulk Hogan battling the Macho Man Randy Savage and the WWF in-ring debut of Zeus.
On paper, that's not very solid, but with the build and everything that leads into it is it's pretty damn good.
They work very hard to get it. I think even Dave Meltzer can't really crap on it. He pretty much puts it over what we're going to see transpire here on TV to build to the SummerSlam. And now the bell's going to ring. Don't get me wrong, but as a kid, and any kid you spoke to, really, we believed in Zeus, the character. Like, how is Hulk Hogan going to beat this guy? Now, obviously, I wasn't a Hulkamaniac. I didn't care as much as the next guy, but I knew if he got through Hogan, he was probably eventually going to get to the Warrior. So even I was concerned about this Zeus character coming in who seemed to no-sell everything. How do you beat a guy who no-sells everything, man?
Right, exactly. So I didn't live Zeus. You know, I was a youngster, but when I went back and like what is it? The More Saturday Night's Main Event Coliseum video really has a lot of the Zeus stuff there. You combine that with Super Tape, and you can see Zeus pretty much his whole run. He was intimidating, and he was awesome looking. He had a great presence. He had an awesome look, like just the big old shoulder pads and things like that he walked to the ring with. Like Vince knows how to build a monster. Like you could, like that's just impeccable. But like you said, the bell rang, and honestly, when you're in there with Hogan and Macho Man, they're gonna hide a lot of flaws for a lot of people. So Macho more so than Hogan, but still.
Well, they both are very good at getting themselves over, and in order for them to look good, you have to look good. And if you're not good, they're going to do everything they can to make sure you look as well. They're going to masquerade it as best as they can, and they do. They do the best they can. And the match is pretty well put together. Looking forward to getting the SummerSlam eventually, but Zeus has arrived. We just recently covered here at the end of June TV. Randy Savage popping up on the stage to confront Zeus during a promo, basically telling him, if you ever want to step in the WWF ring, I support you. So the Macho Man supporting Zeus, almost getting behind, almost kind of pushing Zeus into the WWF squared circle. And only in the world of pro wrestling can you take a movie character and bring him into the real life of the WWF. So Zeus coming for Hogan in real life now. Pal, looking forward to seeing what they do here with that as the weeks go on in the TV world. But right now we're talking a little more news. And after some on-again, off-again conversations, it appears finally, yes, Roddy Piper has finally officially signed back with the World Wrestling Federation full-time. The stories, if you believe them, it was a one-off for WrestleMania 5. The Hot Rod was actually talking to Turner as well at the same time. Now, he probably never really planned to go to Ted Turner because he knew where his bread was buttered as far as the WWF goes. He knew the machine, and he knew Vince McMahon by this point. I'm not saying they had a great relationship, but they certainly had a business relationship. And the Hot Rod apparently giving up Hollywood to some degree to reportedly become a new fixture as part of Prime Time Wrestling. Now, on paper, you tell me Roddy Piper's coming back. I'm excited. As a kid, I loved the Hot Rod. It was great to know that he was back as a babyface and not that evil heel that I had known during the rock and wrestling era. But at the same time, we know it's going to change the dynamic drastically of primetime wrestling, and that was just a no-go for me. I mean, I didn't hate Roddy, but I still didn't want him on my screen when I turned it on USA every Monday or Tuesday night.
I agree 100%. I remember reading the Observer like from '96 when Piper finally made the jump. And I guess Piper did that all the time. He threatened WCW. I'm going to go to WCW to get more money from Vince. Because Piper is a huge name, obviously, still is in '89. Heck, still is in every other year that he came back to, honestly. But he knew how to play the game. And I'm sure he threatened Turner to get more money from Vince, and he got it. And he got what he was looking for. So on paper, it sounds great, him joining Primetime. But again, it messes up the Gorilla Bobby dynamic. And hindsight, looking back,
right.
Primetime '89, which is one of my favorite years, is some of the hardest TV to get through because of Piper. So
it really is, and it's kind of crazy to think, because you would think after all these years you're looking forward to Roddy. You want to hear him again. You want to see what he's going to do. Babyface Roddy was never going to be it as far as entertainment. I mean, yeah, he could be funny, but he couldn't be that Piper that you really needed in order, to really enjoy what he's out there doing. Now, there's going to be a couple memorable episodes, as we know, involving Rick Rude, involving Santa Claus, let's say, but outside of that, it doesn't get it done for me. So Roddy Piper going to come in and kind of screw up Primetime for a while here, and Tony Schiavone over on Challenge screwing that up. And I love Roddy, I love Tony, but don't screw up the Gorilla Bobby dynamic. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, man.
Agreed 100%. Although I will say the Tony Gorilla dynamic was actually entertaining. I enjoy it.
It was interesting. Yeah. Gorilla kind of it was like his little buddy Gilligan or something here, kind of like tease Tony and
it almost feels like Tony's like in awe of Gorilla, like he knows the Gorilla's stature, so he's like, I got it. Like he doesn't, how you get with people, and he never did that. He felt like the little brother with Gorilla, but and I think you talked about it before. He changed his tone, like he doesn't sound like WCW Tony at all.
No, right.
So it's just like a completely odd dynamic, but I actually enjoy it. It's a fun run for them too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to Tony calling SummerSlam. Talking about knocking something out of the park. I know all the sound bites, the memories and things. I've watched it 8,000 times back in the Coliseum video rental days and things of that nature. But actually, right before this weekend's SummerSlam 26, we had nothing to do. My son just popped on SummerSlam 89, and I was on the computer doing things and we running around doing things, but every time I came back in the room, every time I was paying attention, Tony was just killing it, man. So kudos to Tony for really just for the very first time in WWF world. He was essentially the Jim Ross, the UWF, like the excitement thing. So but we'll talk a lot about Tony as we continue on here in the months to come for 1989 anyway. But it is what it is. Bobby and Gorilla, they will be no more for a short period anyway. Bobby Heenan actually going to get his own TV program, or at least that's the way they're teasing it right now. We'll have to see how that plays out as well. Let's see what else we got going. Another shakeup on WWF TV. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry, man.
I was just going to say real quick, is there a reason they separated the two?
I don't think so. I think they just like change. But they also had new guys coming in. That was the plan all along. Tony Schiavone was hired. I mean, essentially, they say to replace Vince because Vince didn't want to be on the air, but Vince had to get his product over, so it was hard for him to remove him. So I get that. I hate to compare myself to Vince McMahon because of all the lowly, shitty things he does. But I think in that little instance, I get where Vince is coming from. It's not about being on the air yourself. It's not about getting yourself over, because I see a lot of other podcasters and things are more worried about getting themselves over. It's about you're here, you know what you're trying to sell, and you can rely on you to make sure you hit all the points. And I think that's what Vince does. And I feel like when I'm doing this show, it's not I'm not trying to get myself over. I'm literally in the back of my head producing myself. And it's easier when you're already inside your head. Because we saw what happened when Vince would get inside everybody else's head. He screamed the shit,
Yeah. And that's probably why he was so bad at yelling in people's ears, is because he knew what he wanted. Because he'd done it for how long? How many years did he do it himself?
Going back to the beginning of the 70s, since the beginning of Championship and All-Star, essentially.
Yeah, so it's. I was just curious. It's unfortunate.
Well, I mean, they hired Tony. We know we got to figure him in somewhere. It's been months, and I'm sitting here going, when is Tony going to get a real job doing voiceover work on Primetime? doing voiceover work, maybe on an All-American or a Spotlight kind of deal or something like that. But he's not really hosting a little bit of the weekend syndicated D&E shows or what have you, but he's not really getting a whole lot to do right now. And so I think it was only natural that they got to figure something out. So they put him in there. And Bobby's already on the road. He's a manager. He's doing other things. So, and apparently they're planning. They think this is a great idea to give Bobby his own variety half hour, if you will. So we'll see how that all works out. And obviously they make the deal with Hot Rod up front. Roddy's not going to return back full time on the road for a couple months at least, but we know he'll eventually be back on the road for a while as a pro wrestler as well. Another shakeup, talking about pro wrestlers on the WWF television, Hillbilly Jim. They had to pull him back out of obscurity. Reportedly joining Mean Gene Okerlund as the new co-host of All American. Maybe he'll keep Gene sober. Oh, you have no idea. We'll have to wait and see. But boy, that'll be fun. Hillbilly Jim and Mean Gene Okerlund every Sunday morning.
I like Hillbilly. I don't have a problem with him. So, Gene, on the other hand,
what are you trying to say, man?
He's Gene.
He is Gene. Boy, he's a tough get through on those WCW Saturday nights leading into the Nitro era. He is. Whew, that was some hard time, baby, to get through, if you will.
After every match, call the hotline.
Call the fucking hotline, indeed. So Mean Gene Okerlund, for those of you who don't know, he's been on again, off again with the All-American, usually by himself, getting it over, but Hillbilly Jim will join him. Maybe they're hoping for an extra. You talk about new announcers. Hillbilly Jim, basically, he's been on the payroll this entire time, but covering 87 on the Grenade, covering 88 on the Grenade, covering 89 on the Grenade, you realize that Hillbilly was not on the road the majority of the time unless he needed to fill somebody's spot. Somebody was injured, somebody went down. Hillbilly was not on TV. I think 87 and 88, I think he had maybe a couple syndicated matches in 87, maybe one syndicated match. He actually cuts a promo at some point in 88 saying, Hillbilly Jim is back, folks. And then we never see him again. And now he's back again. And this time, Hillbilly is replacing Big John Studd, who has quit the company in early June. So Hillbilly is currently in a house show feud, if you will, with Andre the Giant, of all people.
Ooh. What the hell did the Hillbilly have on Vince?
I think he was a good employee, I think. And he was big, he was believable, had a great body. Yeah. He definitely looked the part. It's kind of crazy.
Just imagine him with no overalls. Yeah, I was going to say, imagine him with no overalls.
I always think back to that tuxedo match where he's stripped down. And I'm like, oh my God, look at this guy. He's a mountain of a man and in tremendous shape.
When he does that pose.
The barrel chest pose, yeah.
Ooh, he's jacked. When I went to WrestleMania down in Florida, he was still out there, rocking the WWE shirt, throwing out bracelets and all sorts of stuff, like with Jimmy Hart and stuff as a Legends deal type deal. So he's still probably somehow employed by Vince or TKO at this point, of some kind. And it's just amazing somebody has that longevity.
He was like the goodwill ambassador of Coliseum Video during this time period in the 80s into the early 90s. So I think he was the guy that was, whenever the releases come out, if he was, I don't know where they actually went and promoted it, but I guess he was the guy. He was the guy that was on the road doing that instead of wrestling. And he's a gimmick, and it only made sense. And it's kind of scary to think that Hillbilly Jim is the more athletic of the two when it comes to Hillbilly and John Studd. So Andre's matches were probably a slight upgrade with Hillbilly Jim in the ring, believe it or not. That's a scary thought. Not the best worker in the ring, but hey, Hillbilly can do a mean cartwheel, and we'll leave it there.
Oh, yeah. Have you seen him lately? He's rocking he looks like Waylon Mercy, man. He wears the Hawaiian shirts, has his hair slicked back.
I know he said that hair slick back gimmick for a while. Yeah, good for Hillbilly.
Yeah, and I think he's selling gold and silver in Tennessee.
Oh, don't. He doesn't picked that up from Uncle Elmer.
He doesn't do any of these conventions or anything. He's like, he doesn't need the money. So
good for him. Saved all that money. He seems like one of the good guys. So
yeah, for sure.
Well, as we say goodbye, I mentioned about Big John Studd, but also Owen Hart, the Blue Blazer, giving his notice. He's off to get married, which is a bittersweet thought when you think about what happens later on in life and his family. But Owen Hart is gone. Big John Studd has left, and the project that was Tom McGee is just about out the door. But the WWF constantly trying out new potential talent, and the latest to get that opportunity on recent tryout dark matches at the TV tapings. He will get tryouts, both heel and babyface. I'm talking about a guy by the name of the Big Steel Man. Put a lot of thought into that one. Now, that was not a WWF name for anybody who gets all pissy about it. This was his gimmick of choice, or maybe given to him by his brother-in-law, the American Dream, and it's not the last time Dusty's going to give him a gimmick, because one day he will shock the world, I'll have you know. But for right now, I'm talking about Cody and Dustin Rhodes' Uncle Fred, the beloved Shockmaster, and we know soon he's going to get a gig here as Tugboat. Toot toot, Tugboat on his way to the WWF.
Did they post some of his dark matches?
I think so, yeah. Because he did a couple
and
of
Earthquake. I think they showed some of his too, which is pretty cool. But
if I remember Tugboat working as a babyface in tryouts, but initially a heel. Because when you're that big, Vince wants you to be a heel. Bam Bam was originally intended to be a heel. It was kind of odd. I think it was reversed, if I remember correctly. John Tenta actually got a babyface tryout first. I could be mistaken, but he had recent tryouts, and we know he'll be here before the end of the year. But what's really interesting, and I didn't know this as a kid, obviously growing up, but as results started to trickle out on the internet later on, like the late 90s, beginning of the 2000s, Tugboat was essentially hired here in the summer of 89. He doesn't make WWF TV until 1990. He was not ready for prime time, right?
Oh, definitely not. It sounds like, geez. Yeah, this is June, and we're June of 89. And when does he come in? Like June of 90?
Well, it's before June, but no, it's near the beginning of the year. Yeah, Tugboat.
After the Rumble.
He's got about 5-6 months-ish of just working the house shows. And,
he's on the road doing his thing, getting better.
Oh, yeah. Figuring out how to be a Tugboat. What's really interesting, I encourage anybody to go back and check it out, too. I'm not sure what taping it is, because we got a long ways to go before we get there. But if you watch the debut of Tugboat versus the second match of Tugboat, it looks like he's put on about 100 pounds. So I'm not sure how old the initial debut that they threw on to, because he's pretty, for Tugboat, he's pretty trim. Like, he's a scary-looking guy, and then by the next time we see him, he looks like a fucking Tugboat. That's what... Did they tell him, was that the part of the gimmick? Hey, we need you to add 100 pounds before you make it to TV. I don't think so, but who knows?
Because I've seen some pictures of him as Big Steel Man, and those are hard to come by, but he was a lot trimmer and smaller compared to what he was as Tugboat.
Blew my mind when all the Memphis footage came out from Evansville way back when in the tape trading world, and he was Big Bubba, the breakdancing Big Bubba, and he would go out there and he wasn't really much of a break dancer, but he did the arm movements and shit anyway. And they hit music and
Oh my goodness!
You could tell he was just a happy-go-lucky guy, right? He loved to have
absolutely
fun. So it's hard to get a guy over as a heel when they're just got that much, goodness.
He has a face of a guy that looks like he's just a happy-go-lucky, nothing, no care in the world type of guy.
I feel like had Akeem not taken on the role of Akeem, the gang, I feel like Tugboat would have easily morphed into the Akeem character as well. In fact, that could have been a tag team. Surprised it wasn't. But
ooh, that'd have been interesting.
Akeem found his blood brother. All right, guys, we're fantasy booking some really great shit here, but we're going to continue on. Now, a handful of talent was released, mostly preliminary guys, underneath guys were released right before WrestleMania 5, cost-cutting measures, spring cleaning, if you will. One of those talents was Sam Houston. Now, Sam returned to the WWF for a few weeks here in the summer of 1989 to fill in for the recently released Owen Hart, the Blazer quitting the company due to the lack of purposeful use. I mean, you can't blame Owen. I mean, like I said, off on his honeymoon. But Sam Houston in here to fill his spot. Now, only that's temporary. Imagine being called back, but you're going to give it a go because A, you probably need the work, you need the money, but also I'm gonna try 200%. Maybe they'll hire me back. Now that's not what happens here. We're going to see them use Sam off and on for the next several. We're not going to see him on TV, but they're going to use. If you look at the results, as late as I think Royal Rumble '91, Sam does the dark match with Jerry Sags. So Sam is around for quite a while, off and on. Whenever they need somebody to fill a void, they'll call on trusty old Sam.
I guess that's good. That's a good position to be in. And honestly, like somebody like him, he can go work the indies and some lower level stuff and continue to make some money. And then when Vince needs him, hey, come up and do a few shots and get more money. So some people, that might be better for them than just sticking around, hanging out in WWF land, doing nothing.
A brief run for him in Global as well. if I remember correctly, there in the early 90s. I really enjoyed watching that little story. And that was just when Sam started filling out, if you will. And unfortunately, demons by that point in his career and moving forward I don't know if he ever got right, if you will, but Sam Houston is
shocking.
Here for
somebody from that family with demons.
Summer of '89, Rockin' Robin, the one pure soul. I mean, she can't sing for a lick, but at least she's a good girl, and I'll give her that much.
That's all right. Good for her.
Another talent coming through here in the summer of '89, a guy by the name of Mark Young. We saw him on the Grenade in '89 NWA as Vince Young, if I remember correctly, but he's going to be coming in here doing a little breakdancing gimmick. And Mark, actually the adopted son of Chief Jay Strongbow, so he's going to get a shot here with the WWF.
Does he ever get good? No.
I don't know that he was bad. He was adequate. You know, I remember he goes through the South Atlantic stuff there in 1990, and it's, you know, just wasn't made for him. And obviously being Strongbow's son doesn't help matters for the people that don't like. Clearly Vince likes Strongbow. He kept him employed forever. Right. His father before him. They made the company a lot of money, did Chief Jay Strongbow. So they give him a shot here, but it just doesn't get over. And if I remember reading the house show stories, Meltzer's version anyway, here they start off with a breakdancing gimmick on the house shows when he enters the ring, but it doesn't get over. The crowd's not responding, so they told him just go out there and be a white meat baby face. We don't understand this breakdancing gimmick. So I don't know. I don't know if it would have translated to TV. I don't know if he had enough fire. I don't know if he had enough experience by this point to even really deserve a job. Later on, he'll be back in the same gear as Todd Overbow. So kind of a play Strongbow, Overbow. And he'll just be a straight-up job guy here in the early 1990s. But for right now, he's going to get a little shot here in the summer of '89. And he had some cool little moves. He can move in the ring a little bit. So looking forward to seeing him pop up on TV from time to time.
Well, he is immortalized forever with the clothesline during the Wrestling Challenge Open with Earthquake.
Yeah, the backflip out of the clothesline.
Yeah, he's immortalized. I think everybody knows who Mark Young is because of that.
They know the spot. They might not know who that is, but they know this. You guys know who we're talking about, even if you don't know. Apparently, No Holds Barred made just enough money to make Hulk Hogan look like a drawing attraction for the kiddies in Hollywood. And thus, New Line Cinema looking at Hulk Hogan for another major motion picture, baby. Even mentioning Disney, thinking about bringing in Hulkster for a Disney movie. So keep thinking Disney. Could you see it right now? Hulk Hogan rides Herbie the Love Bug. You know what? Might be on.
Yeah, let's do it. It could work. You like cars?
The Wonderful World of Disney. I used to watch the Herbie movies growing up in the 1980s, but different times. You guys got a lot more to choose from today, so
nothing good, but we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, fun fact though, Hulk Hogan's next film will indeed be Suburban Commando, which is going to be filmed next year in 1990.
Let's go.
Now I didn't realize this until I was doing some digging here, but the film Suburban Commando, where he's like a space alien hunter guy or whatever he's doing, and Undertaker makes it, he's one of the bad guys with a high pitched voice, and I haven't seen the movie since it came out, by the way, so that's all I remember about it. But apparently, Suburban Commando was originally titled Urban Commando and was intended for Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger. So Arnold and Danny were going to be doing Urban Commando, but when those two opted to make Twins instead, the movie Twins, the script was bought by New Line Cinema, and thus Hulk Hogan will wind up being the Suburban Commando. But now Twins is a fun movie. I like Twins.
No, that's what I'm saying. Good call. Yeah, they dumped Urban for Twins, which was pretty good.
You can't see Arnold dressed in that Hulk Hogan spaceship gear. Danny DeVito in the part of the Undertaker, the space alien gimmick. That would have been. Yeah,
I could see it.
I'm a Twins guy. I haven't watched it in a long time. Used to come on a lot late nights when there was nothing else to watch. So onto Twins I went. But
I'm an Arnold guy just in general. I don't care what it is. Most
of his work. Yeah, I always every Christmas put the cookie down now. So I love me some Arnold. Speaking of No Holds Barred, it's out in theaters. Well, it was out in theaters after a 5-week national run, but it remains out in those lower budget, quote unquote, $1 theaters, if you will. That was the one my aunt would take me. We would go to the theater a lot, but my aunt was also a big movie goer. So on Tuesdays or Wednesdays or whatever it was, there was this theater that would actually show the movies after it went away from the other theaters. It would come to that theater, and they would, I think, on a certain day of the week, it was like $2 or something to get in there and watch.
Hell yeah!
So we watched a shit ton of movies that way as well. But as of the July 21st to 23rd time period here in the month, the film still in 238 theaters, so way down from the 1,000 plus that it started in, with a 50-day total of $15.8 million. But it wasn't expected to remain in the theaters very much longer. So they're about ready to gross $16 million, which is what it claims on Wikipedia. And believe me, Dave Meltzer is watching that fucking box office every week, waiting to report. So I'm pretty sure these numbers are accurate. So they'll probably end at about $16 million, as stated on the Wikipedia. It's good for a low-budget film, but to those who are calling it a success, maybe a little bit of an overstatement, because the Dead Poets Society, starring Robin Williams, also opened the same day as No Holds Barred. I believe No Holds Barred did better. I could be mistaken when I covered this, but I think No Holds Barred actually did better on the first weekend. But at the end of the day, Robin Williams' movie winds up with $69 million at this point. Hulk Hogan, 16. So it kind of gives you an idea of where a real movie lands versus a wrestling movie for the kiddies.
Word of mouth spread on Dead Poet Society and got that boost.
Say what you will. $12 million budget, $16 million. I mean, already, let's just say you broke even after advertising and things. At the end of the day, that was a minor miracle. To the hard selling clearly paid off here on WWF TV for the kids. And Hulk Hogan is threatening these kids at this point. You better go make your parents take you to the dollar movies, dude. Hulkster needs a new bike, brother. That's right. I need a new bike, brother. Yeah. I posted that on social media. People were aghast. Like, what the fuck is it? Like, nobody really ever paid attention to the price. Nor had I. I did not recall that either. So it kind of blew my mind. Spoiler alert. For those who don't want to know the upcoming new feuds here in the WWF that will go into and come out of SummerSlam, you may want to skip ahead a couple minutes here on the program. The WWF still planning very much ahead as they begin a lot of their fall feud programs by giving the guys matches beginning in August prior to SummerSlam, so we can kind of get an idea of the fallout from SummerSlam in many ways. Some of the feuds upcoming will include the Big Boss Man versus Dusty Rhodes. The American Dream, that match that has promise. Big Bubber, No Trouble, taking on Dusty Rhodes, the Booker, if you will. Demolition will continue to do battle, but not with the Twin Towers, now with the Brainbusters. Another winner there in my book. The $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, versus, we talked about him, Hillbilly Jim. Man, Jake cannot get back soon enough.
Right, yeah. Poor Ted. We talked about this during the live stream or the watch along that Ted was stuck with junk because Jake left. So Jake, surprisingly, get back soon enough, pal.
Recently on the Coliseum cast on the Fan Favorites 89 release, he was DiBiase and Snuka. Surprisingly, a very good match out of Snuka there for the time period.
Yeah, that was a good match, and it was actually, I think, better than their SummerSlam match.
SummerSlam,
a little bit more time.
By
a little bit more time, and they was able to work. So it was pretty darn good.
And this one really sticks out to me as a kid. The Ultimate Warrior versus Andre the Giant, the eighth wonder of the world. I remember it was on its way to the Richfield Coliseum, and like I said about Zeus mowing down Hulk Hogan, how is the Warrior, my favorite guy, how is he going to beat Andre the Giant? You know, Andre's another one of those figures that, you know, folklore and fairy tales and things of that nature. It's like, how do you chop down the Giant? Now, little Ray Russell did not get to attend that specific Richfield Coliseum. So I sat there pondering, what happened? How badly did the Warrior get his ass kicked? You know, and the weirdest of people actually went to that event, and I was playing with my cousin in the front yard of his house, and he had a very gorgeous teenage babysitter at the time. And she actually went to the show. I didn't even think she was a wrestling fan, but she actually went to the show. And we're out in the front talking about Hulk Hogan or Warrior and Andre. I'm like, man, I wonder who won that. She goes, Oh, Warrior won. We're like, huh? And she's like, yeah, Warrior won. He like slammed him and beat him in like 30 seconds. So part of me was trying to process how the hell Warrior beat Andre in 30 because we had never seen Andre essentially job, much less to the, in 30 seconds. Then there was like probably like 5% doubt. Like, I think she's making this shit up. And then it was just like, wow, awesome. The Warrior pinned Andre. And then there was even a little part of me going, I didn't get to see it. So, but it was kind of cool how we found out, word of mouth. You didn't get that a lot back then from the house show results.
How cool is that? Like you least expect it, right? And you find out.
Yeah, from a gorgeous babysitter. I was too young to look at. Well, I think I was. What would I have been? 9 years old, and I still thought, man, what a hottie. But that's the two things I remember about her
right now, right?
She was, yeah, I'm sure if she is. Hey, Christy, what's going on? Yeah, but
hit us up.
Good. It's good times, but no, it's fun to think back and how many people just were casual fans, but it was something to do on a Saturday or whatever. Usually the Richfield, the arena was big enough. Usually we always got it on the weekend. I know they did the 7-day tours back then, but usually, luckily for me, most of the Richfield Coliseum shows were always on the weekend. So I think that helped me be able to go as often as I did, even though I did, I missed a lot. I also got to go to a lot. So I was very lucky in that department, but yeah, that's one of the ones luckily we have the garden version or whatever version that's out there of the match. So we can kind of get an idea.
There's quite a few.
What it looked like, right. What it looked like. But
did Andre have heat?
No. Andre was Warrior. We know he's at the end of his. Vince knows he's at the end of his rope, and
might as well get the last bit out of him for the Warrior.
This is my next Hulk Hogan. I need you to get him over, pal. Kind of deal. I mean, that's really what it was.
Honestly, that's really Andre's last singles feud.
Here's an interesting pair, and I got to find this one. I don't know if I have it. I don't know if I've ever even seen it. There's been so many trips to the Arsenio Hall show over the years for the WWF, but apparently the sensational Sherry and Zeus were guests on Arsenio Hall, aired July the 21st, and I'm going to have to go find that one and add that to the upcoming Grenade shows.
July 21st.
Arsenio and Zeus. Clearly they needed Sherry there to do the mic work, I guess. And it doesn't say Macho Man, but I wouldn't be surprised if Mach was part of this routine as well. But clearly, if he wasn't, Sherry was there specifically to do the conversation portion.
That's interesting. Huh.
Well, we got a.
Do you think it was Tiny Lister on there talking, or do you think it was?
It was Zeus. It was Zeus. Zeus? They're always plugging. They're always plugging their shit. Come on, if Akim's going to be the next black heavyweight or the first black heavyweight champion, then Zeus is going to be Zeus.
That's right.
So.
That's
well,
funny.
We got a couple of injuries to report. Actually, one very big injury, which I did not know about until I started covering this. But happy to report, first of all, that the Honky Tonk Man's so-called rib injury has he's put it behind him, and he's back on the road battling the Superfly, Jimmy Snuka, here in the summer of '89. Bushwhacker Luke is out. That is not the big one, by the way, but Bushwhacker Luke is out. He's going to work a few dates, but essentially missing most of the month of July. Butch having to do singles matches, fill in tag team partners. I think there's even one show where Butch is a special referee because they have nothing for him. So, but they're finding ways. He's going to earn his pay. You better believe that back in this era.
Yeah,
I don't care what you got to find him to do. Have him set up the ring, pal. I'm paying these motherfuckers. But the other injury that caught me off guard was Hulk Hogan dealing with a pinched nerve here in the summer of '89. Going to take some time off from the ring after the July 18th tapings of Saturday Night's Main Event. Got to make sure you get the NBC show. A big angle coming up there. So Hulk Hogan making sure to appear on Saturday Night's Main Event. But he's expected back on the road by August 4th. In the interim, Brutus Beefcake will be replacing Hulk Hogan on the house shows versus the Macho Man Randy Savage. I wrote here in my notes, I smell refund. A lot of people not happy. Hulk Hogan is a no-show. That doesn't happen very often.
Oh, I'd be pissed. Do they get refunds? Do they give them?
Yeah, they give you refunds if there's no shows. Certainly they give you up until a certain match or intermission or whatnot to go collect your refunds. They would do that for years to come if guys were snowed in and didn't make it. If they were big enough stars,
that makes sense.
Injuries, even I've seen. I remember when Hall and Nash were amiss at the Gund Arena right before they made the jump. That was when Hall was suspended and Nash was probably just being Nash, but they offered refunds there. I've been there a few times. I remember there was a show where Jericho couldn't make it due to snow. So they will, and it depends on the show as well. Sometimes they say you have until the end of the third match. Sometimes they would say you have until intermission. Of course, you don't know when intermission is, so you got to try to guess and see as many matches as you can for free before you go get your refund or whatnot. So,
yeah.
Never got a refund.
They would announce it at the beginning. Hey, Hogan couldn't make it, or X, Y, and Z couldn't make it. So
then you'd hear the boos. Right, yeah, and then you would be able to get a refund up until a certain point in the show. So that's where we're at. The Hulk Hogan actually taking time off the road due to a pinched nerve. You don't see that very often with the Hulkster. Well, wrestling, man. Wrestling.
Oh, yeah. I was just wondering if there was a specific spot or...
it's not reported here. He would never sell it, brother. He'd never tell anybody. He'd say it's from hanging and banging, dude. Working out, brother.
Probably not wrong. I guess that's a good thing.
So, at that point in the program, guys, at this point, we're going to take a brief WrestleCopia timeout. When we return, it's the new format of the old results portion of the show. We'll be back in just a couple. Stay tuned. All right, guys, welcome back to the Grenade as we kick off July 1989. We're not looking at results anymore. Well, we are looking at results, but not like we used to do. Instead, this is more of we're going to look at the patterns of the house shows, look at some of the main events, the headline matches, as well as the prelims, the mid-card matches, everything they got going on here in the summer of 1989. And I am once again joined by Steve Ekstad here for the second half of the program. Steve, welcome back once again, man.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been a nice walk down memory lane.
Walk down memory lane. The summer of 89, one of my favorite periods to be a wrestling fan right now was the year of 89, 1990. And right now we're going to talk about what was going on in the house shows. When we left you guys, we talked about Hulk Hogan coming off the road for a few weeks there due to a pinched nerve. Now we know ever since WrestleMania 5, Hulk Hogan has been working nonstop with the Macho Man Randy Savage almost exclusively all the way through mid-July before taking that time off. And he'll be back by the beginning of August and continue to work with Randy Savage heading into SummerSlam. Now, after Hogan left the road, Beefcake inherited the Savage program on the loop, with Hogan remaining part of TV. So Hogan's going to continue to build the promos, brother. We can still cut promos with a pinched nerve to build up SummerSlam, but Hogan made sure to get in that Saturday night's main event taping before he said, all right, now I'm going to take time to quote unquote heal or whatever the story is here. But Beefcake, luckily for those of you just wanting to see a great storyline or what a good story. Okay. A storyline. Randy Savage and Scary Sherry recently attacked and cut the hair of the barber on the Brother Love show coming out of WrestleMania. So at least there's some heat there. There's a reason for the match.
Yeah, for sure. It wasn't like they just stuck Brutus in there for whatever reason. It's you honestly, like, if you didn't know, if you wasn't reading or however you find out he had a pinched nerve, you would just assume this was the plan all along because they ran the angle on TV. Brutus then takes over for Hogan in these matches, and Hogan does something else. So right. You wouldn't even really know if you wasn't reading this stuff. So I don't know if that was luck or if that was just it's what they planned anyway, and that's what they got going forward until SummerSlam. So
yeah, I don't know if this is
not bad.
Actual injury, a planned vacation by the Hulkster and whatnot, but it seemed to work out. You know, obviously the smaller towns that Hogan couldn't be bothered to pop up in, and I think it was more to promote No Holds Barred as well as why he wasn't on the road for portions of April, May, June. But Hogan off the road, and when he wasn't making those towns, Beefcake was filling in then as well, and that was already planned. Those were already announced. It wasn't like Hogan no-showed those events. The smaller venues or dates that Hogan couldn't make, it was Savage and Beefcake, and there's a reason for that. We know Hogan's trying to get his buddy groomed and ready for the main event of SummerSlam, trying to get Brother Brudi over to the next level now, brother. So we'll see how that shakes out. But Randy Savage again, worked the first half of July against Hulk Hogan. With Hogan out, he works the latter half of July against Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And Macho Man picking up few decisive victories, only over the Barber, by the way, not over Hulk Hogan. Usually losing most of those matches by pinfall or escaping by disqualification, count out. So Savage not really getting a lot of wins here over the summer, but as the heel, you're not expected to get a whole lot of wins, especially against Hulk Hogan. But one thing that Savage is making right now, and that's a lot of money, because he and Hulk Hogan continuing to sell out arena after arena, or damn near sell out every arena they're involved in right now. And adding Sherry and Miss Elizabeth in their corners is an additional dynamic. And Elizabeth beginning to get physically involved. Some spots planned with Sherry kind of tripping her up and things like that. So Liz getting physical for the first time in her career.
And that was like a huge change in what she was doing when she was managing the Macho Man. Even when they were baby faces, she wasn't getting involved. So for her to get involved and get her hands dirty, so to speak, and wrestle with Sherry, gets a huge reaction every time. So I thought it was pretty cool. I loved like the SummerSlam dynamic. I know we're not there, but that was like really the only thing I seen of them during this time. And I was like, man, she's getting into it, and she was really involved, which was pretty awesome. So I can only imagine the noise and things that it was making on the house shows.
Yeah, Liz had select dates. They weren't few. I wanted to say select few, but she had select dates. She wasn't at every arena, but she was in the majority, at least of the bigger arenas. I know for a fact she was here at the Richfield Coliseum Hogan Savage match with Sherry on one side, Liz on the other. It's the return match. A lot of the bigger towns where they're going to make 2 rounds. We get the count out or DQ finish the first time around, and then we come back through for Hogan to get that win, brother, at the end of the day.
Of course. Did you go to either one of those?
I went to the second one, I think. I'd have to think. Man, I went to so many shows. I'd go back, I have to look at results to really trigger.
Was Liz there when you went?
I've seen Elizabeth, yeah. I've seen Elizabeth work. But there's a lot of shows. It's like they stick out to me immediately, and there's other shows where like I have to think, was I at that show? Yeah, I was, but I don't remember anything on that show. So it's kind of weird, man. It's a weird dynamic. Like I know for a fact I went to a couple WCW shows, and I'm like, man, I just don't remember anything about the shows. But it was WCW, and it was in that bad time frame too. There, just the coming out of Watts era, if you will. So.
Ooh.
But well, it was easy to get in, man. There was like 12 people there down.
Right. You can sit wherever you want. Do whatever you want. That's
right. It was a lot easier to get like first and second row in WCW than it was in the WWF. I'll put it that way.
I went to one WCW show, and it was a house show in Indy, and it was during the NWO time, and I'm pretty sure Macho Man just recently joined the NWO, so that's kind of the time frame. That crowd was insane, dude. They were so over, like every single one of them. It was just, everybody got booed out of the building. It was a hell of an environment compared to what you're used to. So I'm glad I was able to see that. I don't remember anything on the card, but it was pretty damn crazy to see how over that.
I don't know. I haven't felt the side. Maybe it's because I'm an adult too. I mean, I can go back over 20 years, and I don't feel the same about a house show now as I did as a kid. It just felt like a more fun experience. And that's just me. I'm sure, if you people can afford the $8 billion that it costs to sit in the seats today to watch a WWE event, God bless you, because I sure can't. But we'll get back here to 1989 when everything was way more awesome and way more affordable. Brutus Beefcake. So this is what happens when they have nothing for you. We talked about Dibiase getting stuck with Hillbilly Jim here very soon. But there's a handful of guys who have nothing going on right now. One of them is Greg the Hammer Valentine, because the guy he's feuding with is currently a referee, Ronnie Garvin. So the Hammer kind of floundering around, just whoever is available, they kind of stick Greg Valentine with that person. And so Brutus Beefcake actually opening up the month of July, working Greg Valentine, his former Dream Team partner, because neither guy has anything going on. These guys are working the house shows. Mid-month, Beefcake obviously transitioned to the Randy Savage program with Hogan out, essentially. So he's replacing Hogan on the house shows. So talk about a good luck stop there for the barber in regards to his spot on the card. Different pay, brother, I'm gonna imagine.
Yeah, lucky him, right? It's nice to know certain people, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here's a guy who did it on his own somehow. I'm talking about the Ultimate Warrior Intercontinental title feud right now. Warrior Man defeating Honky Tonk Man last SummerSlam for the Intercontinental Gold. Lost it at WrestleMania 5 to Ravishing Rick Rude, and the feud continues on. Warrior chasing after his belt as the Beast Show headliner. This is main eventing right now. Now there's stuff in those Beast shows, so I'm not talking like Warrior and Rude are drawing the house by themselves. They're usually the tag title feuds on there, or Dusty and Dibiase, or the secondary match on those cards right now. But Warrior and Rude have virtually been married together coming out of WrestleMania. They've been together all summer long, and they'll continue to work all the way into SummerSlam, as we know. But not a lot of finishes, not a lot of clean finishes, not a lot of pinfall. Actually, none, as far as I can tell, protecting both men for their SummerSlam match. So DQs, countouts, etc., leading us to the pay-per-view.
Not surprised by that. You don't want to give away any finishes or any idea of what exactly is going on. You're gonna have to. You paid to go to that show to see it, but if you want to see a finish, you're gonna have to pay for the pay-per-view. So not stupid, but
this is another thing that's interesting here that happens, a transition in storytelling by the end of July on the house shows. We talked about the house show patterns. Here's a new pattern here. So after working Rude for the last several months, pretty much at every city they could possibly work in, by the end of July, the Ultimate Warrior pivots to a program with Andre the Giant. Now, the feud won't begin really until just a week or two leading into SummerSlam between Andre and the Warrior Man. But they're already beginning to work dates on the house shows, leaving Rick Rude with nothing to do. So again, we go back to who else is in the locker room with nothing to do. So Rick Rude, by the end of July, is going to be working for a couple weeks anyway with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Ho!
Glad that was only a couple weeks.
Well, I'm glad they moved Hacksaw away from Haku, at the very least. Is what that tells me.
Enough.
So lots of shifts here going into SummerSlam. They're preparing for coming out of the pay-per-view. These are going to be a lot of matches. We're going to see a lot of now. Rude and Duggan are going to have other things to do. We won't get into that right now because we're in July, but Warrior and Andre will be stuck together here for the short term. We're going to look at some of the other talent here. In the WWF right now. Dusty Rhodes, Mac and Dream, one of the latest to make his debut in the company. Without Jake Roberts available, Dusty became the $1 Million Man's full-time opponent on the house shows, usually pinning Dibiase clean in the middle of the ring, though Ted would sneak in a victory with Virgil's help from time to time, especially whenever the tape machines were rolling, right? So we made sure we got a couple pinfalls. Got to put that in our back pocket just in case. Got to get a couple losses to Dusty Rhodes. So that was kind of wise booking the way Vince would do that. He would bring these guys in, but he'd always job them out on one of those TV tapings very early in there. I know he did it with Rude. I know he didn't trust Rude to begin with. Rude lost to like Jerry Allen on a couple of early TV tapings just in case.
Why Rude? Did he have a reputation?
He was his own guy, I guess.
His own,
I don't know. It wasn't just Rude. That's just one that sticks out to me. That's
right. Yeah. It makes sense though. You got to protect yourself. If they're going to screw you over, we can screw them over right back. So,
well, DiBiase
is what it is.
Working with Dusty and Teddy lucks out here because we know he's going to wind up with Hillbilly Jim, as I mentioned here before too long. But it was perfect timing. Dusty Rhodes was coming in at the same time Jake was going out. And so they were just able to transition and still give you a high-profile semi-main event. Easily could have been a main event on a B or C show, but because there's no built-in story there, other than $1 Million Man versus Common Man, so it's an everyday story in many ways. But with no television storyline, that's a hell of a match to be able to plug in and place a Jake.
Oh yeah, agreed. He got lucky on that one. So
Ted got lucky, as did Vince, because that would have, that's another, strong semi-main event for Rude and Warrior. It's almost a double main event in many ways, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder what Ted would have done if he didn't get Dusty.
Who the hell knows? There's so many different people that, I look at here that we're doing a whole lot of nothing. And it's all a scary thought. So we'll leave it there. It's a scary thought as to who was available to work Dibiase had Dusty not, been in that situation. So the $1 Million Man got very lucky there. I think he bought his own opponent. Maybe that's what happened with that. But Mr. Perfect, oddly, Mr. P, spends the first half of July in a new house show program versus the Mighty Hercules before being put back with the Hitman, Bret Hart, to close the month of July. Now, all the matches ending in time limit draws, whether it's Hercules or the Hitman. But nevertheless, that will keep Mr. Perfect's perfect streak alive.
Yeah, smart booking.
They don't want to bury some of the other talent on the way to Perfect's ascension,
right?
Which we know he'll hit a bigger stride here after SummerSlam, moving into the fall. Well, Mr. Perfect, he'll get a manager, he'll get some theme music, and then we're really off to the races.
Absolutely.
So lucky for Hercules, though. He's the lucky guy in all of this because he gets a couple weeks working with Kurt Hennig, which had to be a time off. A few days off because he had been working with Dino Bravo over the summer here, battling over who was the world's strongest man, Dino Bravo or the Mighty Hercules. So as you imagine, when Perfect goes back to Bret Hart, though, unfortunately Hercules also goes back to Dino Bravo. But not only is he working the Canadian strongman, he's doing jobs to Dino as well.
Why?
The mystery of all mysteries, pal. Dino Bravo, the inexplicable push that every single human being that's ever been on this program has questioned in some way, shape, or form. Dino looked cool, and it ended there. That's not even the bell rings. It's just, I don't even want to hear the bell ring with Dino Bravo.
I don't even want to hear the music.
Here's the crazy part. Mr. Perfect can't pin Hercules, but Dino Bravo can. Think about that for a minute. As we continue on, you ask, well, what was Dino Bravo doing during that time Hercules was working Mr. Perfect? Ask nobody. Dino was beating Hillbilly Jim, who was in a feud with Andre. So Dino beats everyone because pal. So Dino Bravo just going to beat no matter who they put in his way.
Why?
Yeah, I think we just asked that question.
Yeah, no, just like,
I told you why. Because pal.
Yeah,
somebody had their thumb.
Dino Bravo.
I've heard a lot of people go, was it the French Canadian connection? Was it because Pat Patterson was French Canadian? I don't think Pat and Dino really had any kind of gigantic relationship like that, to where Pat would go to bat like Vince, you got to put him over. Like I don't see that. I've never heard that. So it's more. It feels like it's just a Vince thing. You look at him, man. He's just roided out. I love it. It's great shit, pal. And he used to play racquetball when he could move. And I had a hard on for that in the 1970s. So, I had to mention every interview had to mention that. I don't know. That was really weird.
Jeez.
Oh, Bret Hart. Actually, you wonder what did they do with the Hitman during that 2-week period in early July when Mr. Perfect was working with Hercules? The Hitman goes MIA for the first half of July, often touting he never took any time off. Curious why Bret Hart was out for half of the July month. Kind of curious there. Was it an injury? What happened there? You ever hear any stories of why Bret Hart disappeared for a couple weeks there in the summer of '89? Anybody out there know?
He probably got hit by Goldberg during training camp in Atlanta.
Bill Goldberg. That's Bill Goldberg. Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry. I don't know. I never read his book. I'm sure it's in there.
You think is he that detailed? Oh, no, I missed 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I had diarrhea.
Dude, he took he had journals and he did he did tapes. Like he recorded everything. Like every show he was at probably has the date at the start. And I worked Hennig and we went 38 minutes.
Alaska. Anybody got the tape?
Yeah.
I had explosive diarrhea for 2 weeks. I executed that excellently into the toilet. It was very technical.
Shit.
I think his colon double crossed him, I believe is what happened there. But we'll see. The Hitman, he'll be back by mid-July, so he's not gone for very long. Whatever it was, maybe it'll pop up in the Future Observers. Right now, Meltzer's not reporting on anything. So we talked about Hillbilly Jim doing a couple rounds with Dino Bravo doing the job there, and then he's right back to filling in for the departed from the company, Big John Studd, mostly in C-show main events. Look at the double main event on those C-shows right now. Hacksaw and Haku, Andre, and Hillbilly Jim. Oh,
if you don't want to see work rate, just pay for a ticket to this show.
I'm glad I wasn't in those smaller markets, right? Because, oh my God, I can't do that. And a lot of times we were getting the tag matches, Hillbilly and Duggan versus Andre and Haku, trying to masquerade the weaknesses of most of the guys involved. But that don't get it done, as we've seen with the Undertaker working other slow talent. It's
doesn't work.
No,
that's right.
So, like I mentioned, though, by the end of the month, it's Andre and Warrior, Duggan with Rude. Haku is going to be paired with Jim Neidhart and Hillbilly Jim and Ted DiBiase. So all these guys are switching up house show matches by the end of July. Jimmy Snuka and Honky Tonk Man, they'll continue their storyline. Of course, recently on the Brother Love show, after Snuka dove off onto Honky Tonk Man during an interview with Mean Gene, Honky returns the favor. El Kabong guitar shot, very politely, smashing the guitar across the head and back of Jimmy Snuka. He'd already taken the coconut. So Honky going a little... I think Honky went light on Snuka because he had to work with Snuka. And it's like, if I go light, maybe I can convince Jimmy to go a little light on me in the ring.
Definitely possible. I would want that. So, plus, you saw how he reacted when Piper laid it in with the coconut. So, I think I'm good. I don't need that guy chasing after me.
Honky Tonk Man and Jimmy Snuka will continue. So Honky took a few weeks off, rib injuries, so he cites. He talked about that in his shoot interview. In fact, one of his original shoot interviews said Jimmy was diving on him with the Superfly Splash, and he was asking Jimmy, could you not go so hard on my ribs? You kind of hurt me there. He claims Jimmy injured him during that time period with the Superfly Splash. Now, Jimmy had just came back to the company. It wouldn't be long before Snuka would only do the Superfly Splash for TV tapings because Jimmy was already getting up there at age, and you blow out your damn knees doing that every damn night. So mostly on the house shows, we would see Snuka do the crossbody for the win. So, but every time, when the TV camera was rolling, when the lights were on the camera, Jimmy would pull out the big Superfly Splash. But apparently, upon his return initially, Honky Tonk was eating the Superfly Splash more often than not, and he was not a fan, apparently.
I don't think I would be either. I don't need somebody crashing into me like that every night. Yeah. Now, if it's like a one-off, okay, fine, but
pay me, man.
Well, yeah, but damn, I don't want my ribs broken and hurt.
Were they broken? That is the quickest recovery of even bruised ribs I've ever seen, to be quite frank with you. But that's
maybe it's a lesson. Maybe that's a lesson for Jimmy. Cut it out, or I'll just quit.
It doesn't matter. Jimmy worked other talent. It don't hurt Jimmy none. That hurts Honky Tonk, and he just falls further down. That screwed nobody but Honky Tonk, and he doesn't care at this point because he knows his days. Even though he's going to be here for quite a while, still his days are numbered. I mean, that's already obvious based on the booking.
That's right. He got the light blue tights, right?
Baby blue, as he claims. That's his story, and he's sticking to it anyway. I got things to debate that, but that's for another story and another day. Another house show feud going on throughout the summer here. Rick Martel and Tito Santana, they worked with each other almost exclusively after the implosion of Strikeforce at WrestleMania 5. Mostly Rick Martel going over by pinfall. Now they do a few draws, a few schmozzes along the way, but clearly between the two, do they see something in Rick Martel? And boy, has he evolved, shall we say, as a physical specimen. Rick Martel's been on some interesting vitamins lately, brother.
Hey, man, he hit the gym, dude.
Man, he looks amazing. He looks awesome, does Rick Martel here. Unfortunately, it's just this dynamic with Slick. I'll put it this way. When they came out for the 6-man at SummerSlam, my son was watching. He goes, oh, get him away from Slick. And that's no knock on Slick. Slick's great with the guys that he's great with, but Slick and Martel, that might be the one time, even as a kid, I think in the WWF, I never really questioned the manager and the wrestler. It just, that's the way it was. But that particular dynamic, it just never worked. And watching Rick Martel try to do the Akeem dance every week, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. It just did not work. And I wonder if that's part of the reason why it took him a little bit of time to get the run, the push after the turn, because I think Vince seen it like, this is not working. So we got to do something else.
Well, Vince's rule back in that time period, everybody worth a shit, which is pretty much everybody on the roster. If you were a heel, you had to have a manager. outside of Bad News, because it wouldn't make sense for Bad News to have a manager. But but beyond that, Rick Martel, by the end of, and Mr. Perfect doesn't have one right now. They're trying to find one. They'll find one for him before too long. But pretty much everybody on the roster is going to have a manager. Eventually, Rick Martel will move away. His character and his personality proves it doesn't need one. I don't know if anybody fits Rick Martel here in the company right now as a manager.
I don't think so either. And I think what happens is the gimmick becomes the manager almost.
Yeah.
The model, him being the model, becomes the manager, essentially.
And it was great to see Rick Martel in the front row of SummerSlam pretending to spray. My wife just happened to wander into the room, and I've told the story of WrestleMania 6, the first wrestling she'd ever seen outside of modern day when we met. I had WrestleMania 6 on, and he's coming to the ring on the cart, and he's spraying the air against, and my wife just goes, I wonder what that smells like. And I waited, and I'm like, should I or shouldn't I? And I go, it's water. And it was just like you told her Santa Claus wasn't real. Like it broke her fucking heart to know that this is all a work and there's nothing in there but, water in the canister. But as he stood there at SummerSlam pretending to spray an arrogance can, she just happened to be sitting on the couch across from me. And I looked up at her and I said, and she just, had this embarrassed look on her face. So she still remembers 20 years later from the time we had that conversation. So it's kind of fun, though. But Rick Martel, one of my favorites of all time, and it's great watching him. And he's got to get away from that top rope knee drop, though. Blow your fucking knee. Can't do that every night, Rick. He's going to have to go back.
Definitely not.
We'll see him find his way. Tito Santana, well, at least he's employed, I guess, at the end of the day. And hey, one day he's going to be in discussion to be the world champion, if you ask Tito. So
yeah, he's going to beat a big-time name, too.
Arriba! Well, it's rain in Spain. Falls mainly on the plane, is what I've been told. I don't know if there are planes in Spain. I'm not sure. But we're going to continue on. Greg the Hammer Valentine in a feud right now with Rugged Ronnie Garvin. But Garvin's still doing the referee shtick. So Valentine drifting around, working whomever is available. We talked about Brutus Beefcake. He's also going to work with Jim Neidhart. Coco Beware. There's even going to be a few Bad News Brown Greg Valentine matches, which at least that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, who is the heel? Or is this just kind of like the Brawler and Bad News, just two guys just beating the shit out of each other?
I think that's what it was. And those guys were made for each other. If you talk about beating the shit out of each other, neither guy really. I think Bad News liked to give it more than he took it, but Greg Valentine liked it in both ways, I think. So maybe more ways than one. I don't know. But the Hammer and Bad News Brown. So there's another guy, and it's not because of injury. It's not because somebody quit the company. Bad News Brown bouncing around between Greg Valentine, Mark Young. We just talked about the breakdancing Mark Young. The Red Rooster. Several nights there would be guys out and Bad News would kind of be relegated to working against their opponent. So Brown, for his big up, he was working with Savage and Hogan, and now they have literally nothing for him. He may be getting the shortest end of the stick right now as far as talent to where you are on the card ratio.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I would like to see one of those Mark Young matches. Like, it should have just been him doing a break dance. He stands up and then just gets nailed.
Ghetto blaster. Yeah, that would be great.
And that's it. It's over.
Fool, you go try to do that break dancing down there in Harlem.
That's right.
Where were Harlem Heat from? 110th Street? Yeah, there.
Yeah.
Go try that shit. There you go. Well, I just touched on his name a minute ago. The Red Rooster, who has mainly been working with the Brooklyn Brawlers since fucking February. Poor Terry. Did you hear Roman Reigns? I don't know if he was ripping on or giving a shout out to the Red Rooster after SummerSlam last. He literally called him the Red Rooster. So I thought that was like, wow.
I did not hear that. What the hell is he talking about?
Well, he was talking about how far him and Seth Rollins go back and how they worked with each other in Florida Championship Wrestling, going all the way back to when the Red Rooster would chew them out after their match or whatever he did, whatever the Rooster did. But he called him the Red Rooster. He said it so casually too. It's like, man, Terry he'll never get away from that.
That must be the rib down there. That must have been the rib.
It's like, what were you, 2 years old when that? It's like, fuck you.
No, he's in his 40s. He was well.
Okay,
there's a picture of him back. Here's a picture of him backstage.
There's a fucking Polaroid with him and Red Rooster hanging out. I don't want to hear
there has to be. There has to be.
Roman Reigns wearing his Poultry in Motion shirt. I know that happened. That's a thing.
He has a poster. He has one.
And if not, AI can make that happen today, Steve. Just saying, right. Fans. That's right. So if we see any Roman Reigns Poultry in Motion pictures. You know,
he's like one of the 3 people that bought the poster.
Very cool. I was one of. No, I wish I'd had the poster. So Red Rooster basically been working with the Brooklyn Brawler, who they have nothing for at this point. They've taken Bobby Heenan away from him wisely. I mean, it wasn't clicking, it wasn't getting done, and we're going to see the Brawler basically here in the summer of '89 begin to be relegated to once again just job guy status, but now with a gimmick. So he was King Job Guy, I guess is the title that you would give Steve Lombardi here by the summer of '89. He's like King of the Jobbers, right?
Yep, good for him. Him and Lombardi.
And
I mean him and Horowitz. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Take your pick. Yeah, they'll be on TV for years to come, guys. Off and on. Brawler is going to be here as the mainstay. Barry's going to be in and out a couple times, but Brawler's going to be here. It's longevity, baby, is what it is. Right. So I feel like there was always an annual match where my grandfather had to walk in the room when the Brooklyn Brawler was wrestling just so he could snicker at the gear and the fact that his pocket was falling off his ass. It's like, this guy's still here. He never wins a match. Yeah, well, come back next year. You'll see him again.
That's wrestling, pal.
Jim Neidhart in some interesting matches, and by interesting, I mean not really at all. Neidhart, while they're trying to groom Brett, see what they have, work these time limit draws with Kurt Hennig, have classic matches, things of that nature. Jim Neidhart has been working with the Warlord, the Barbarian, and eventually here in July, Haku, in singles matches. Now, luckily, they're going to put the Hart Foundation back together. Brett's just not ready for singles right now. Not whatever they had planned for him, and we know his time will come. But I was happy to know that the Hart Foundation will be back together by the end of the summer.
Yeah, agreed. Out of those 3, I think the only good one would probably be Barbarian.
Yeah, and even those matches were probably atrocious because I'm sure they were just the slow plotting match on the card. So
if Neidhart worked like he did against Savage and Barbarian moved with some speed, that could have been a pretty good match.
Yeah, more often than not, it was Barbarian and Neidhart over the last few months here on the house shows, is the way they've been plugging it on TV. Because if for nothing else, even if these guys don't have a backstory, they've been cutting the insert promos on each other. All of these house show matches. So they did a great job of, at least I heard the guy mention the other guy before I went to the arena. So there's like 2% of an interest here for this one. So
that just goes to show like how important those event centers really are. Like people just, they're just promos. Who cares? But those were huge.
Yeah. They're acknowledging their opponent. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could highlight the whole card, honestly, instead of the upper echelon that you're paying to see. But you can also get excited for the undercard stuff. And I want to see this dude kick his ass or whatever.
Well, we've seen recently a new look Birdman Coco Beware dyeing his hair blonde, painting up the sides of his head blue and red and whatever the hell he's got going on there. But Coco primarily working with the Warlord on the house shows right now, unfortunately. But he also has matches against Greg Valentine, matches against the Genius, obviously all underneath matches, and also all losses to the Birdman. So the new look, same Coco, unfortunately.
That's unfortunate. I thought the look was awesome, and he's a good talent. I don't mind Coco.
Very solid head, very good in his time. He might be putting on a couple pounds here in '89 at the point, but I've said it time and time again. We talked about it on the Memphis '85 show. Coco's biggest detriment was his height. Period. I mean, there were periods where there were very few guys as good as Coco in the territories he was in, but it always came back, I think, to Coco's size and the believability. Now, I'm not saying he couldn't whip up on an ass twice his size in real life, but in a wrestling ring, it goes back to believability.
Absolutely. He's probably 15 years too early.
A lot of those guys, I feel like, that didn't get the fair shake. But the Birdman, new look, same old Coco, just doing jobs every night. And that's unfortunately, it's never going to change, honestly, as we continue on. Paul Roma, who has been pulled out of the Young Stallions, except for when they need him, has been pulled away from Jimmy Powers. He's been largely paired with the Genius on the house shows. The Genius going over every night, but this is an interesting dynamic because usually when you're like Coco, when you're the loser, if you will, of the house show run, you're expected to lose to whomever. They don't really change it up depending on your opponent. Even when Hercules and Hennig, they continue to do the draws that Hennig and Brett were doing. So you're relegated to that spot. But this is what's interesting. Kind of shows you the pecking order, because Paul Roma, while doing losses to Lanny Poffo, he also works with Boris Zukov quite a bit here in July, and Paul Roma's going over on the former Bolshevik. So you can kind of see where the pecking order is. At least Paul Roma, they recognize talent over gimmick, with Paul Roma going over Boris.
Yeah, thank goodness for that, but no thanks on having to watch those.
Those. And I mean, you're talking 15-plus minute matches too, buddy, because I've done skim through one or two of them, and that's hard time right there. That's
a primetime special right there. I think there's a couple of those on primetime, aren't there?
Yeah, there's probably at least one. I think you're right. Yeah, at least one between those two, and then it goes the distance. I don't mean in time limit draw. I mean just it took me to my distance. Is what I mean. I wanted to be distant.
Yeah.
And finally, in the singles department, we're going to close out the singles discussion with White Lightning, Tim Horner. It's not really White Lightning here, but he is Tim Horner, and he floated between a variety. And Tim's under contract to do the house shows. So this is during a period where Vince kept guys who were preliminary guys on TV, but were hell of a hand, as they call them. They would be under some form of a contract or loosely based handshake deals or whatever. They were on the tours. They were on the roads. It goes back to guys like Terry Gibbs in the mid to late 80s, and it goes back to guys like, we'll see here, Tim Horner, Barry Horowitz, Brooklyn Brawler, Mike Sharp, guys like that who did TV, but they also made the rounds in the house shows. And the matches they did on TV in 2 and 3 minutes, they would stretch to 10 to 15 minutes on the house shows to kick off the night, unfortunately sometimes. But Tim Horner floating around between all sorts of talent, talking Barry Horowitz, Mike Sharp, Boris Zukov, Tom McGee finishing up working with Tim Horner here as a heel, the Mega Man, Tom McGee, now a heel. Just pretty much the dying days of his run here. He'll be gone any day.
Yeah.
But Horner proving to be a serviceable lower card babyface. He gets wins over Sharp, over Horowitz, guys like that, but also doing jobs as well to some of the other higher level prelim guys. But Horner was very solid in it, and I thought while he wasn't the New York style, I really enjoyed his brief run here in the WWF.
Yeah, I like Tim Horner. I really liked him in Smoky Mountain, and I'm like, oh, it's Tim Horner. So I enjoy when he pops up on here because the match is going to be a little bit better than Roman and Zukov with him in the ring. So very underrated, I think, too. Also, the problem with him is the cult of Cornette hates him, so he's never going to get the due he probably deserves at some point. I'm not saying he's like a Hall of Famer or anything, but his whole career almost seems to get discredited because Cornette doesn't like him or there's issues there.
Right. I know it's been years since I listened to Corny's version, and I know he said some things and there was some issues there. And Tim sounds like, to me, I'm sure Cornette could come up with 8,000 other people who were far bigger pieces of trash on the pro wrestling world, but he's still cool with those guys. So we're going to be, because carnies are going to carny, man. I mean, like 99% of, I hate to say it, the population in the wrestling world, that's just the way it is, especially back in that era. And Jim knows that. And Jim's seen a lot worse and heard a lot worse. I have no doubt, but he's going to hate who he's going to hate, and they're going to suffer for it. But
exactly.
Tim Horner, as a kid, I enjoyed the Lightning Express because I was a giant Brad Armstrong mark.
Oh,
but
man,
I always loved that underneath babyface team. I think that's why the Wild-Eyed Southern Boys got over with me. And, before them were Brad and Tim really in that spot with me. And I always thought Tim had a good work rate, if you will, talk about the observer, the work rate, but he was always good in the ring and fun to watch. And so they keep him around here for much of 1989. I can't remember Horner's version of why he left the company, but obviously he wasn't doing a whole lot. And he'll wind up back working for WCW off and on a few times here over the next several years. But we're going to continue on now into the tag team division before we close up this week. We're going to talk a little bit about the headline feud right now on the house shows involving the tag team champions for well over a year now. Talk about Axe and Smash Demolition defending their titles against the Twin Towers. Now, this one's strictly a house show feud, and what I mean by that is no real angles on TV at all whatsoever, which is odd.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to look up, some pictures, some videos, whatever I could of the feud between the Demos and Twin Towers, but I made the mistake of going to Google, and I encourage everybody else not to do this. But do not Google the words demolition and Twin Towers together. I just don't do it.
Oh boy, really?
Mm-hmm.
What if you do it the other way around?
I think probably similar results, I would imagine, but I was not thinking that day. I'll tell you that much. But now, by the end of the month, though, it looks like the towers are being moved away from the demos in the tag team scene. But again, we talked about some of these guys, Rude and Duggan, just kind of finding something to do for a couple weeks till we get to where we need to go. Demolition being forced back into some matches with the Powers of Pain by the end of July. That had to be a pain.
Yeah. But it's like they were married for each other. It's like they were meant for each other. That's unfortunate for Demolition.
It really is. Axis and Barbarian for that matter. I think Warlord's Well, obviously the Powers of Pain, the Heart Foundation projects going into solo for the summer. I don't know if it was planned that way. I don't know if it had gotten over, if they would have kept it that way. But both those teams will be pushed back together by the end of the summer. Talking about the Warlord and Barbarian, Brett and the Anvil. But Demolition and the Twin Towers, I said it before, I'll say it again. I know the Brainbusters are, a precision team. They're like a buzzsaw, man. They'll rip right through you. But the Twin Towers were the first team, I think, in my youth, my childhood, where I believed these guys, they can actually beat Demolition. So Demolition, this is the first time I thought the Demos were actually in trouble.
See, like when I seen the Twin Towers, I never thought of them as like a regular tag team. I just felt like they were put together for the Mega Powers, and that was pretty much it. And so I never really looked at them as somebody that like Demolition had to worry about. As a kid, you don't really see, like you said, there's no angles, there's no nothing of them promoting this on TV, so you never really even thought about it. Now, if you was going to the house shows and those sort of things, yeah, like, okay, Demolition could definitely lose here for sure. But if all you seen was like TV and nothing else, you never would even known they had a feud. So, but if I was in your shoes and I was your age and everything, absolutely, it'd be like one of those things of, wow, this is their first legit big time challenger that they've had in a long time. And because once you see Powers of Pain get jobbed out one or two times, you know they're never going to have a shot. Well, here come the Twin Towers. How's this going to work?
Right. They'd taken Randy and Hogan to the limit in the main event. We had seen the main event, so we knew and their size, just the sheer size to me was, even though the Powers of Pain matched the Demos in size, it never felt like they were, and I think a lot of that had to do with the storytelling too, but it felt like they were never really going to give Demolition the run for their money. Although I felt at WrestleMania 5, they might do the switch, not only because Fuji was part of the matchup, but also because it was just time. Maybe like, oh, this is the team they're going to give it to. But luckily they didn't go that route. But what's really interesting here is you have two high-profile teams like Demolition, like the Twin Towers, no storyline whatsoever. These guys are working each other from April through, well, at least through July on the house shows, and they do nothing on TV. A lot of times they would kickstart these house shows feuds for the summer. We would get like one, even if it was something generic, like Ron Bass and JYD crossing paths in the aisle and Bass trying to hang the dog or something, and then nothing anymore. We don't get anything beyond that. But that one little angle, and then now we have a reason for the house show matches. With Twin Towers and Demolition, nothing ever, and that was kind of weird. Like not even like a crossing of paths on Brother Love or something, like a exchange of words kind of deal. So it was so weird to see such the highest profile name value teams you could have, and you do nothing with it on TV.
Which is crazy.
It's kind of weird.
I would have loved an angle just to see it on TV. Like, wow, this would be awesome. And then you can go and find the matches or try to. Back then you couldn't, but you pay to see that. That's something that would have drew the B show easy. Mm-hmm. That'd be a major selling point, especially the last thing you see with Boss Man is getting suplexed off the cage on Saturday Night Main Event with Hogan. Right, so like they're obviously established way up here. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I think that's a missed opportunity that they had, but it is what it is.
One fun thing they have started now. Early on, it was a lot of disqualifications in those matches with the Towers and Demolition, but as it begins to conclude, as the feud begins to end here at the end of July, Demolition begin to rack up some pinfall victories, usually over miscommunication. Somebody's hitting somebody with a nightstick. One of the heels is hitting the other heel. And they're doing these little teases after the match that the Towers might split up. And the fun dynamic is, as we know, Bossman will eventually turn babyface on Akeem. But here in the summer of '89, and I don't know that there was actually any plans for this. I don't know if they were actually testing the waters, or there was ideas, or it was just something to do. But it almost looks like Akeem is going to turn babyface on the Bossman. And I can't help but think how over the dancing fool Akeem would have been in that good guy role.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And he was already kind of getting cheered in his singles matches anyway, just because of the gimmick and the dancing. Like, how can you not love Akeem? So by then, he was definitely would have been the babyface. And it would have made sense, too, because obviously Bossman was, that gimmick just screamed heel.
Well, other tag teams heating it up on the house shows right now. Well, maybe not so much here. The Bushwhackers and the Brainbusters continue to work with each other. Luke and Butch had been going over by pinfall almost every night. Now, they say whenever a hot heel is doing jobs around the loop, something big's about to happen for them. And we know that is the case for Arn and Tully. But right now, Luke and Butch, they need to get over. They're still relatively new to the WWF and this gimmick. And so Luke and Butch have been beating the Brainbusters here. But like I mentioned, Luke goes down to injury at some point, forcing us to get various matches, including a lot of Butch versus Tully Blanchard singles, man. I bet Arn was happy to take those nights off. Late in the month, though, Tully and Butch, Luke will eventually return, but the Buster is going to be elevated, as we know, by the end of July.
Were they doing like pinfall losses or just?
Oh, yeah, pinfall.
Wow. Yeah. Jeez. That's crazy.
There's some sort of miscommunication, comedy, whatever involved, but the matches are not as bad as you would imagine, and that's all I can really say about that feud, if you will, on that, between the Brainbusters and the Bushwhackers. Here's a match which is at this point in the summer of '89 is currently being touted as the best match on the house show circuit in the WWF. I'm talking about the Rockers, Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty versus the fabulous Rougeau brothers. Getting high grade marks by all the Observer readers anyway, sending it into Dave Meltzer. And Rockers and Rougeaus are actually on the C show. So if you're coming for Duggan and Haku and Andre and Hillbilly, you can stay around for the Rockers and Rougeaus, which are typically closing out the night.
Yeah, I definitely would have stuck around, especially if I was an Observer reader and I saw like how big like they were getting, how high the marks were that they were getting. This is like one of you've hyped me up on this match just from talking about it so much. This is like my dream match. This is like the last Battle of Atlanta. I want to see one of these matches so bad.
You're referencing the Iron Team matches. They would do the probably the original Iron Man match that I could think of off the top of my head anyway. Most falls in a matter of time. And like I said, they pull away from Boston, they pull away from Philly, and I believe those are some of the markets they do that match in. And they pull away just in time to screw us, fans at home, because we never get to see one. So I don't know if it's ever been recorded. I know they didn't take away TV taping time to do that in any of the TV tapings. So I don't know if any of those matches even exist. But the Rockers and Rougeaus currently lighting it up right now in the house shows here in the summer of 1989. They'll continue on into SummerSlam. It's part of six-man tag team action, those two teams. But just fun times right now with the Rockers and Rougeaus. Just a good time here. And covering plenty of summer C show results in the past, I can openly say that is the only match on the C show worth watching. So, I mean...
You're probably not wrong.
But... let's see what else we got here. We got, the biggest booking changes we'll talk about here before we close up shop during the month of July. Dusty Rhodes continues to replace Jake the Snake Roberts in the Ted DiBiase matches. Brutus Beefcake replacing Hulk Hogan near the end of the month versus Randy Savage. Bushwhacker Luke's injury forcing Butch into singles matches with random tag team partners as well in some nights. Sam Houston gets a few weeks of paydays, replacing Owen Hart temporarily on the undercard. Andre the Giant shifting from Hillbilly Jim to the Ultimate Warrior. I'm betting if you asked Andre, he would rather work the Hillbilly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Who
sure
wouldn't?
A lot easy. A night off with Hillbilly Jim, I'm sure, compared to.
But then again, 30 seconds with Warrior, is it really that bad?
I don't know if the early matches were 30 seconds. Bobby Heenan's told that story of the Andre Warrior matches at the house shows and Warrior hitting Andre 100 miles an hour with those fucking clotheslines, and Andre coming up to him going, "Hey boss, maybe go a little lighter on the you don't need to hit me that hard, I'll sell for you." And Warrior every night continuing to whack Andre like he's a fucking tree with those clotheslines until one night Warrior comes rushing into him with the clothesline and Andre just sticks his fist out and Warrior runs right into Andre's fist and essentially knocks himself goofy.
Good.
And I believe the story after that was Warrior never really stiffed Andre again, as if I remember correctly. I mean, just running into a tree trunk, essentially, or a brick wall, if you will, was a UW. But, yeah, so that's Andre and the Warrior. We'll talk. They're going to be working for a while here on the house show, so we'll talk more about them in August, September, and we'll get the Ultimate Giant eventually here in the fall of 1989 as well.
And I actually like the angle I like the angle they ran on TV for them right before SummerSlam. So not bad.
And the last thing I did here, I kind of compiled the top 10 matches that were used the most here in the month of July. We're going to get an idea of the people who are working the most together and basically, essentially, as they called it, married to each other on the road. By no surprise to me, Rick Rude and the Ultimate Warrior, they essentially weren't really working anybody coming out of WrestleMania. Now, we would see some guys pivot certain nights and things of that nature, but Warrior and Rude pretty much day in and day out, every day, every night. I bet Rude loved to do this in 89 and do it again in 1990. But Rick Rude and Warrior here headlining the B shows. Dusty and Dibiase essentially semi-main eventing the B shows. So you have I mentioned it, but you have a very solid top of the card on the B shows.
Absolutely. Maybe that's part of the reason why Rude left. I'm done with this crap. I know paydays
money, man. Money. Where's my push going? Yeah.
Yeah, so, but also
let's see. I lost to the Warrior twice for two different belts. I'm feuding over somebody's mother jokes, and then I'm probably losing that feud. Where do I go from there? Had Rude known the way the business was going to shift, a year later, say 91, I mean, they would have basically had to plead with him to please take the world title. We don't have shit.
You're right. He would have been like the last man standing.
Yeah, if he would have just hung around. So many times, hindsight, obviously, these guys don't know. The WWF machine had been on top for so long, and by 1990, there's no way you could have foreseen how far it would decline in just a year after that. But I feel like, had he just hung around, Rick Rude could have been all sorts of things here in the 1990s WWF. But in Demolition Twin Towers, they're also up there in as far as repetitive matches here in July. They'll actually switch between the A show and the B shows. So they'll do some matches, some nights with Hogan, some nights with the Warrior shows. Martel and Tito, Rockers and Rougeaus, very solid on those C shows every night. Jimmy Snuka and Honky Tonk. Savage is working either Hogan or Beefcake. And of course, we're finally finishing up this never-ending fiasco of Duggan and Hillbilly Jim against Andre and Haku, and I can't wait for that to come to an end. I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, me too. Duggan. Phew. I don't know which one's worse, Duggan or Haku.
Well, I'm poor Haku. I'm not sure like and I'm sure it's explained extensively in his book why the Alaska match between Brett and Hennig was so much better than the other 467 matches they have here over this 4-month period in the WWF. But I know he touts that he wants somebody to go out there and find it for him.
That's why. Man, just think about it. The same thing was with the Tom McGee, but it was like every other squash match that Bret Hart ever worked.
It was nothing.
Just a jobber match, like whatever, like a prelim match. It wasn't like Bret didn't show us anything that was out of this world, and neither did Tom McGee, honestly. So like him hyping this up is because he knows it doesn't exist. And so he could put some aura and things around this Alaskan match.
So you're telling me if somebody finds this Alaska match, he'll move on to another match?
Maybe, probably. Why not?
Oh, that match I had with Akeem in Canton, Ohio. That was a barn burner.
Alaska match? When did you first hear about this? Was it before or after Tom McGee?
Through Brett, I would imagine. I think it was before, but I mean, it wasn't like heavily hit.
It was always the Tom McGee match, and then as soon as they found that, it was like, now we just need the Alaskan match, and then we'll be set.
What? Alaska? What's he talking about? Let's see. Where's the most uncommon place that somebody might have been filming the show with a handheld
there's
camera?
There's pictures of it inside the WWF magazine. There's an actual picture of it from high in the rafters, and it's like looking down, and you can see Brett and Perfect in the ring. So I think Land or one of Richard Land or Gary Dinsdale, one of them wanted this picture from this magazine, and I scanned it for him. And they're like, it does exist. Somebody was there. They were there. WWF was there, camera-wise. It has to exist somewhere. So they're even pushing it now for Brett. So whatever. It might be out there.
Maybe. You never say never. It's when I learned when the Jack Veneno defeating Ric Flair for the world title match popped up. It's what I discovered when WWF, it doesn't exist. It's never existed. Give it up. Forget about it. The last Battle of Atlanta with Tommy Rich and there it was. Unless you lived that era, unless you lived that tape trade era, you have no idea how huge that was. The last Battle of Atlanta.
I didn't even really
Holy Grail, as they call it.
Yeah, I didn't even really know about it, but I guess WWE wrote a huge article about it before they released the footage, the importance and the significance of it and why everybody wants to see it. And it's after you read that, I was like, I got to see this. And then I watched it, and I'm like, this is just another cage match.
I think Magnum and Tully was slightly better, but that's my opinion, right? So,
well, it doesn't get much better than Magnum or Tully at that time.
Sometimes we romanticize things, man, and it doesn't live up to the hype. But I think back to Sabu and Taz, Barely Legal 97. It did not live up to the hype. Although I enjoyed the build for the year prior, the year and a half prior. I lived that shit, buddy. Let me tell you. So I was eating that shit up with a spoon every fucking Friday or Saturday night, 2 a.m., whatever it was. I was eating that shit up. I bought that shit hook, line, and sinker. You couldn't have fucking pried me away from that TV, that pay-per-view. But as Taz said in a shoot interview afterwards, and I don't remember how it was asked to him, but it was basically said, that it, I don't think they disrespected Taz and said it didn't live up to the hype, but that's essentially where they were going with the story. And Taz said, brother, you could have dropped a fucking bomb in the middle of that ring that night and it wasn't going to live up to the hype. And I think that's where it goes sometimes. We hype shit so much, no matter how good it is, it's never going to reach our expectations.
Definitely not. And it's sad because Taz and Sabu put everything they had into that build. Yeah. And then you have to, what do you do? How are you going to make this memorable? You can't. There's no way. There's just no way possible. Because a lot of the times, the great stuff really has no expectations going into it. And you don't really think, okay, this is going to be the greatest match I've ever seen in my life. And then all of a sudden, they go out there and they put on a barn burner. It's kind of like the Brett match with Shawn that we're going to talk about in the coming months or weeks. There's no way it was going to live up to the hype. Shawn and Mr. Perfect. These are dream matches that you have in your mind that you've wanted to see for years, and it's like, okay, it's finally here. Damn, that sucked. It's unfortunate. So a lot of the times you see throw it together and let it happen and let it live on its own instead of letting it stew for a while, I guess. But
we'll see if that match from Alaska ever pops up. Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect won't be long. I mean, they've had their run. They've had a hell of a run here on the house shows, but both guys need to move on at this point and find something else to do, and they will. We'll find out. And Bret's going to be back with Neidhart by the time SummerSlam gets here. And Mr. Perfect's got some other matches upcoming for himself. I know Jimmy Snuka, he's going to be working with him quite a bit, and they have some fun matches here in the fall of 89. And we'll talk about those and a whole lot more for Mr. P and everybody else in the row. We'll see what happens here next month when we get to August and see what the house shows look like. But for right now, guys, time to wrap things up here this week on the Grenade. Fun new format for me, Steve. I really appreciate you doing this with me, man.
Thanks for having me, man. I had fun.
All right, guys. Now, I don't know, how we're going to structure this format moving forward. We're going to give it a try. I'm certainly open to your thoughts and opinions, as good or bad as they may be, in regards to the way we handle this, the house show patterns for the month of July. We can continue doing this. I don't want to go back to just reading results, though. That's just not fun. You don't really get a lot of that, but we can kind of, by breaking it down like this, we can get a better idea, understanding of what everybody was doing, where they were on the card, if they were winning, if they were losing, who they were stuck with, guys that they had nothing. Bad News Brown, we got nothing for you right now. And Bad News is kind of all over the place. And it's going to be that way. I don't think Bad News got anything going on until maybe the Rumble with Roddy Piper. I don't think so.
Yeah, sounds about right, which is crazy. But
beer-bellied sharecropping fucking bookers around here need to get their act together. All right, guys. We're wrapping it up this week. I want to thank you again for another edition of the Wrestling Memory Grenade. We'll be back soon. We've got July TV to get into, and as I mentioned, we've got some guests coming back. Matt Crowder let me know that he'll be available again here in a couple of weeks. He is the clone voice of one Jesse the Body Ventura, and the best part about it is Matt doesn't even have to try. He just sounds like Jesse Ventura. So that's always fun to get Matt on the show, and maybe I'll give him a few one-liners to rattle off to me so I can pretend that Jesse's talking to me. We'll see how that plays out when we get there. He'll be here some point in July TV, though. We'll talk to Matt. We've got John Paz will be back. We got a lot going on here as we continue the road to SummerSlam 1989. Until next time, guys, I do want to ask you once again to give the Patreon a try if you have not done so already. You can always cancel at any time. I don't know that you will. We got a lot to offer there. Lots of great video casts for the Coliseum Cast, Monday Warfare, the big ones, Regional Wrestling Unreeled, Talking TNA, Pure Racer Academy with Dan Ginnity. Lots of great stuff. Get well, Dan, by the way. We'll have Dan back here before too long. But for right now, we're going to wrap things up. Steve, I appreciate you doing this with me, man. It's good to have you back here.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thanks again for having me.
All right, I want to thank Steve once again for stopping by the Grenade. I know Matt Crowder already on the docket. He'll be back soon to discuss another week of July TV later in the month of July here in 1989. And we've got other guests lined up as well to return as we continue to tell our story of the World Wrestling Federation in the year of 89. It's been a fun project, and we continue on. Where are we going to stop? I had that question asked to me more than once. Well, only Ray Russell knows, and maybe my brother, because I think he asked me and I told him. But it's a long ways off, guys. I have an idea of where we're going to end the WWF project here on the Grenade and pick back up maybe with some WCW, maybe with something else. We'll have to wait and see. But for right now, no worries, guys. It's a long ways off, and that we will conclude 89. And hey, spoiler alert, we're going to continue on into 1990 and even beyond. So for right now, though, we're going to wrap it up. I want to thank everybody again for listening. This is Ray Russell saying from pillar to post and coast to coast, you pull the pin and I'll pick up the pieces right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. I'll see you next week. Don't miss it. Be there.
It's the World Wrestling Federation on tour, coming to these great areas and facilities with action. Friday, July 14th, Lakeland, Florida, Lakeland Civic Center. The Twin Towers Tag Team action in Lakeland. Friday, July 14th, Huntsville, Alabama, Von Braun Civic Center. Brutus the Barber Beefcake among those on the card in Huntsville. Friday, July 14th, a great card in Baltimore, Maryland at the Baltimore Arena, topped by the presence of the WWF champion, Hulk Hogan. Hogan. Monday, July 10th, San Francisco, California, the Cow Palace. Intercontinental Champion Ravishing Rick Rude in San Francisco. Monday, July 10th, Uniondale, Long Island, New York, the Nassau Coliseum, the Macho Man Randy Savage and Sensational Sherry in Nassau on the 10th. Sunday, July 9th, Denver, Colorado, McNichols Sports Arena, the Ultimate Warrior among those on the card in Denver. It's the World Wrestling Federation. Be a part of it when it comes to your area.